Welcome to episode of the Tower 26B Race Podcast. I'm Joe Minsky here with Coach Gerry Rodriguez. Coach, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, Jimmy. How are you?
Oh, I am excited because this is intimate. This is like old times. Just me and you, buddy. Just me and you, hemming and hawing for a greater part of 2 hours. I got you the rest of the afternoon. This is heaven to me right now, bud.
It is a little nostalgic. This is how we did it in the opening days at back in my house. Now,
and this is, to be honest, this is when we were getting the most downloads. We were getting millions and millions of downloads a month when it was just me and you. So, hey, is this something we're gonna have to go back to? Get Talansky's out. He's traveling around the world doing something. Emily's having gum surgery. Just me and you, bud.
Back to the good old days. I like it. It's good.
Back to the good old days. But I just rode my bike to the pool, coached the workout. I rode home, and I think I have a new. It's not a calling because it's not a good thing. I think I'm the new Jack Hanna of death. You know, Jack Hanna, the animal tamer that was on Johnny Carson and Jay Leno and Conan O'Brien.
Yes.
Remember Jack Hanna? I'm the Jack Hanna of death because I rode to the pool, which is about 20 miles, rode home, and I think along the way I saw 2 dead raccoons, about 15 dead rattlesnakes, a coyote that was on death's doorstep. I mean, this thing was skinnier than what is going on in the Santa Monica Mountains?
I don't know, man. It's who knows, Jim? I mean, is this all the riding you're getting, by the way? Because
that's all I do. I just ride to and from the pool. I use an excuse. Use it as an excuse. But yeah, that was an interesting ride. I swear, I think I saw a baker's dozen dead rattlesnakes in the middle of the road. So hey, you want a nice road trip, or a nice excursion from your everyday life? Go ride in the Santa Monica Mountains. You never know what you're going to see.
It's been a while since I've done that. I remember. I did a lot of riding in those mountains.
But Jerry, you are looking chiseled. Have you been training? What's going on with you?
Well, after my wife told me she needed to see the skinnier version of me, and
I've said it for about 18 months. Your wife speaks up, all of a sudden, boom, 15 pounds gone.
Yeah, well, truthfully, it was really just getting unfit, not feeling great, and deciding, I need to lose weight, and more importantly, just exercise again. So 6 weeks ago, this is my second 3-week cycle. The coach in me just can't go swim, right? I have to actually write a little mini program for myself. So I completed today was the conclusion, or tomorrow will be the conclusion of my second 3-week cycle
block. Well, everybody's calling it
the session that I did 3 weeks ago.
They're all calling it blocks. You're in your second 3-week block
cycle.
Whatever fancy. It's not all these hot YouTube influencers. Everybody's got a block. Everybody's in the middle of a block.
Well, I'm old school, and I'm using, and what's super inspiring and motivating for me are those form goggles. And just so you guys listening out there, we don't get paid for any of this, but I think this is the best swimming tool. I look forward to swimming now more so than ever. Wear those goggles, all the data points in it, especially things like cadence rates and distance per stroke, and it's fantastic. I can't wait.
Do you look at the data afterwards? Do you download the data afterwards and check it out, or do you just?
I can't wait to get back home. I get back home and I immediately go to my iPad and I turn my goggle on and download it, and then look at the data. And the little geek in me is looking like today. I did the Mambo set actually, and up to 5 down to 1.
Mm-hmm.
That's an easy 100, a 500 at 80%, an easy 100, 100 fast, and then that's 1 5 1 1. Then I did 1 4 1 1 1 3 1 1. And so those higher effort 100s, I just couldn't wait to get home and see, well, how did you do? When you see it in the goggle, real time, your time, but I wanted to see all my 25 splits, the total nerd in me, because I was trying different things, different cadences, different, with experience like I have, different types of strokes, just to see if I can squeak another quarter second out.
Now, are you trying to tell us that you are now split personality? Like there's Jerry the swimmer, and then Jerry the swimmer goes home, and all of a sudden it's Jerry the coach assessing Jerry the swimmer. So you're 2 different people, really.
It's yeah. Well,
this is interesting
because I'm able to see the and in fact, a number of our members started wearing these, and I went and checked out on them. One of them being you.
Mm-hmm.
Check Jim.
Oh, are you stalking me now?
I'm stalking you. Is that what it's called? My daughter tells me when I looked somebody up on Facebook, she says, "Oh, you're a stalker." Oh, yeah. Their account is public. I mean, it's like, why is it a stalker? It's like window shopping.
Let me tell you something. I would not complain if you're outside my house with a pair of binoculars. The last person in the world I worry about stalking. But no, it's exciting. I wear those form goggles all the time, and like you said, we have no skin in the game, but they're just game changers. I use them on the tether in the backyard, and that makes it bearable. Because if you're just wearing a pair of goggles and swimming in place for 20 minutes, a second feels like an hour. You put those things on, you have something to look at during it. You can change your stroke rate. You can pick it up for 30 seconds, back it off for 30 seconds, and really get quality out of the session. So,
and this is how terrible it's gotten for me. 2 days ago, when I was getting ready to drive down to LA, because as you know, we have the Hermosa Beach Triathlon this weekend that we are the title sponsor of, and I had to drop off some fencing. I did my swim, hopped in the car. It's a couple-hour drive down. And when I got to a spot where I can download my data from the goggle to the app, it wouldn't download. So I'm like, wait a minute, I want to see how I did. And then I get to another place where I had good internet.
Yeah.
Wouldn't download. Then last night, wouldn't download. Or yesterday.
Oh man, were you shaking, getting cold
Oh,
sweats?
well, I was like bummed, like totally bummed.
You needed your fix.
So 2 days went by and I didn't see my data. I go, what the heck happened? So I had to email my contact at Form and whatever they did to get me
Yeah. Gerry Rodriguez is not getting his data. They better react. Get you that damn data.
Me and my 2 followers.
Well, now I know I got to swim well if I know you're watching me. You just let the cat out.
I watched Alex Evans.
Let the cat out of the bag. I better start actually swimming. So, that's exciting. Good. Well, we appreciate your next time you can do this with the shirt off. Next podcast. Get back to that Rodriguez six pack.
Definitely don't want to see me with a shirt.
Hot Gerry. Remember Hot Gerry? That was a couple of years ago. We had a Hot Gerry come out. Yeah. But hey, speaking of Hermosa Beach, we have Santa Barbara coming up. That's you know the race director intimately. How's everything going? Everything going for the build in the Santa Barbara? Are we selling out of this race? Are you guys calm? Is everything in order? What's the deal?
So the race is August 26th, one day, right? Saturday. And the race will likely sell out because it's on a one-day format this year. Last year it was 2 days. So we have a fixed number of bike racks. So it will likely sell out on the triathlon side of things. I think it's close to 90% now, somewhere around there. But we added a beach festival. So there are a number of shorter beach events, 1 mile swim, 5K run, swim, short 500-meter swim, a relay, 3-person 100-meter relay. That should be
that's
great.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So
could someone do the race and do the beach festival? Would be possible to do both?
The way we've set it up, if you entered the triathlon, specifically the sprint, the shorter one, you're gonna have about 45 minutes, an hour break or more, actually, a little bit more. And then you can do all of those short beach events. If you enter the long distance or the longer triathlon, the one with the 10-mile run at the end, probably 50% of the field will be able to do 100% of the field will be able to do some of the short events. Maybe 50% of the people will be able to do all of the short events. They'll complete it in time if they wanted to.
This is fun. Because Wildflower isn't around anymore. This is probably the next best thing, or the new thing, as opposed to Wildflower. Obviously, it's not in the most remote place in California like Wildflower was. This is in Santa Barbara, and it has just a whole half day full of endurance sport events. That's fun. All right, go to SantaBarbaraTriathlon.com if you guys want more info, but that'll be, and yours truly, the buttery tones on the mics. If you don't get enough of me on this podcast or on our 2 p.m. team calls, if you're a Tower 26 athlete, or on the plethora of workouts I lead weekly, you can come out to Santa Barbara and have me call you across the finish line.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And the good thing, by the way, is you get lunch with this. We're providing a meal for anyone who enters.
Well, they say there's no such thing as a free lunch until you go to Santa Barbara Triathlon, and then you get a free lunch.
Until you come to our event, there's free lunch.
Right. So, hey, what did we talk about last episode? Let's get into that.
Last episode was exciting. To me, it was. We had the great Bobby McGee on, and I think a world of Bobby and his, if for nothing else, just to listen to his accent, but his knowledge, his breadth of knowledge on running and then triathlon running and the mechanics of running, the training protocols for triathletes, and he has such a beautiful way of simplifying things, huh?
Yeah, no, I could have talked to that guy for 8 hours straight, and we're getting tons of comments on that and questions, and I think we need to have him back on sooner than later. So we'll look forward to that. And he's actually working with some of our athletes now that have recently come on board, and it's nice. It's good to have that resource of knowledge to come on board and help our airwaves be better now, our listeners be more knowledgeable, and then our athletes be more knowledgeable as well. So good times there. Go listen to that. And what do you got?
Yeah, no, and I had a chance to correspond with him the day of the PTO and the day after, and then he's coming out to visit, so he'll be here visiting us in, I think, next month in September.
Yeah. Okay, well, that'd be fun. Maybe we'll get him live. Maybe we'll have a live show back in person.
Wonderful to have him live. I mean, he is just
I'll just wear
One
my
of these
mask.
guys that you can, there are few people I think you can listen to for hours at a time and never be bored. He's one of them.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. I mean, he's just has so much different experience to fall back on. And that's what I try to use in our coaching, whether I'm on deck, whether we're on the pool deck or we're coaching at the track. It's just not only the knowledge, it's the experience you have that you can put with that knowledge and make it digestible for the athlete. So he's really good at doing that. What are we going to talk about on this episode, this current episode we're on?
Well, I thought we should, August is sort of an interesting time, right? July, August, vacations for some people, family trips, and so on. And also could be season fatigue, could be boredom maybe, or just heavy training loads. And we might be a little late in this topic, but it's good. It's even good right now to hear it, and it will be better things an athlete can implement for next year or the following seasons. But talking about what should you do during the summer, should there be a mid-season break? You called it, I wrote it down here, you called it season break or season burn,
Mid-season burn. We call it. When I was playing ice hockey back in college, you play every weekend, you have 2 or 3 games every weekend, you're traveling around the country playing against team. There's no break. There's nothing. There's no all-star break. There's nothing on. You just play every weekend from October through March. So we get into January and we'd say, we were playing on the East Coast. You haven't seen the sun in months. You get this ashen gray look. You're just waking up early, practicing, going to school all day. Those guys that did go to class, they go to class all day. Then they play on the weekend. You're beat down on Sunday. You have, the rest of Sunday to recover after maybe you have a game, and then you get right back into it the next week. So it's this cycle of training, playing, training, playing, train, playing. There's no time to recover, relax, and kind of just let go. So we would call it the mid-season burn, right? And we'd have this mid-season gray that we'd call, because our, like I said, our skin was gray. So the first thing we did was we go hit the tanning bed. Right. We all hit tanning bed, get that smell of the burnt skin and okay, I'm starting to feel better. I smell the burnt skin. But then from there, we got to think outside the box. How are you going to get that fire going again?
Yeah. Jim, and one of the challenges for athletes that are, even if it's a local race, and more so if it's races that you're traveling away from home where you have to take a flight, there's a fair amount of stress to race travel, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is my bike in the box correctly? Is it going to get squashed on the plane?
Yeah, is it going to make it to where you're going? Yeah.
Is it going to be on the flight, or, be on the carousel when I get there? Then offloading the bike, and then did I get the right size van? I mean, there's all of this stress that just goes along with your bike, right? And
yeah, I just went through it in Oregon. My race wheels didn't show up, So then I'm like, okay, I don't want it to affect me. Practice what I preach. Just kind of go out there and race your race, but still in the back of your mind, you have this stress. Oh, I'm not on my wheels. I'm not on my setup. I'm not comfortable with what I'm executing, and all that goes into it.
And in fact, we were just a couple months ago at 70.3 Kona, and Elizabeth needed a CO2 cartridge. Didn't have one because you can't take those on flights, right?
Yep.
So we go to the village, the Ironman village, where all the vendors are. No CO2 cartridges. So now we got to go drive around and look for a bike shop.
Yeah. All that
of
goes
those
into
little
it.
things, they add up. The stress of travel alone and the timing of getting yourself from hotel to transition area. I mean, all of these add up. You do a couple of these during the season, 2 or 3 of them, together with all of your training. And then the summertime is finally the kids are out of school, right? Those who have kids. Or everyone sort of, it's more a time of frolicking, right? There's a couple of months where it's sort of viewed worldwide vacation time generally. And you're in training and you've got races coming up, and what happens? And what do we see athletes going through? What are you seeing?
Well, and that's the thing. Like you see either, okay, kind of they get stuck in the monotony of training. You see little injuries pop up, and it's nothing drastic, but little things like maybe Achilles gets inflamed, or the top of the foot gets some inflammation, or maybe a calf becomes a little bit strained. You have these little things pop up because of that repetitive motion that they're doing day in and day out and day in and day out. And now is about the time that those things start to happen. And that shows me as a coach, like, hey, okay, we got to change something up in this athlete's regimen, because it's just been the same thing over and over and over again. And maybe they don't have a race until Indian Wells or Ironman Arizona or even Ironman California, which is the end of October. What are we going to do now to kind of re-stimulate that training, change the stress on the body to different areas so they can spread it out and not put it on maybe that Achilles that might be starting to act up a little bit, or the calf? Like, how can I think outside the box to re-stimulate them and re-engage them in the process?
Well, do you think which is what this topic is about. Do you think it's a good idea to take a break in
I think it's
July or early August, depending on what your season, your season of races structure looks like, where you take a week off, 10 days off, where there's no triathlon training?
and it's athlete by athlete basis. Some people need it just for their sanity, but I think definitely that ebb and flow in intensity has to change. Like you can't be at an intense output all the time. And I just was watching a video on an athlete we'll get into later and talking about how intense he was going all the time, and there was no ebb and flow. And you can hear in the voice of the athlete that it's just, the fire isn't there right now. And I think a lot of times that's just because they get caught in this cycle of, I got to go hard, I got to make gains, I got to go hard, I got to make gains. You might not have to take a whole week off, but you definitely have to take a week of, okay, this is all aerobic work where you're not pushing the envelope on these. Or if there's a family vacation, like Pooja just took a family vacation on Alaskan cruise. Obviously she came back with COVID, but that was totally, everything was optional. If she wanted to jump on the treadmill and run easy for 45 minutes, but that week there was nothing scheduled. It's a go enjoy the week with your family. So especially people, athletes who have kids, it's kind of built in. If they're going on vacation, that's a total optional week. Go out there and just do what you want to do if you want to do anything.
I think a part of the messaging that you're saying here is you're giving the athletes permission to take a break, whatever that break may look like. It could actually be a break of doing nothing. It could be a break of lower intensity. It could be a break of, and you gave some examples, but you're giving permission because our triathletes, the personality generally very driven, A-type, and one feels, especially in the summertime, because we're sort of programmed, the summertime is the time to do things. It's the time to train more. You have longer hours, shorter evenings. So you want to get out and you feel like you have to, take the opportunity to train more. Well, but you've already spent several months keying up and you've done a race or two, and you still have, because the triathlon seasons are elongated relative to the past. And many athletes still have races like you're talking about in September, in October, going all the way into the November. And for us, we have a sort of a race final season race in December, first week of December, right? There's a lot of runway left. And it's a good thing, in my opinion, to actually take that break. And you talked about it as doing it a little bit differently. And from my perspective, I think it's actually okay to take a full week.
Well, like you said, I think a lot of athletes, these type A athletes, they think if they're taking a week, they're going to lose all their fitness. Oh, I come back, I have no power, I have no ability to run a mile, I have this, I have that. And that's maybe a couple days it'll take you to get back into the groove, but you're not losing anything in that week. You might be just losing a little bit of what that ability of the fire at that top end, just because you haven't done it in a week, but you're not losing anything. You're coming back fresher physically, but more importantly, you're coming back fresher mentally. But as a coach, it's hard to say, hey, take the whole week off, because they're like, I can't take a week off. I'm gonna lose every bit of my fitness. And I hear it even after a weekend off. Oh my God, I lost so much fitness. You didn't lose any fitness. You just might need a little bit to get the motor going again, get the feel for the effort, but you're not losing fitness. And that's the hardest thing to convey as a coach. You take a couple of days off, there's no fitness being lost.
Right. Yeah, the data shows with a week that there's minor loss, a little bit of loss, but very, very minor with a week. But the key thing is really there's the physiological break, but then there's the mental and emotional break, right? The unscheduled was the word you used. You don't have to have a schedule of training. You don't have to go out. No one says you still can't go swim or bike or run, but don't wear your watch. Don't wear your Garmin. Make these more sort of an activity of exercise, light exercise, rather than training. It has to be a mental break from what you've been doing, so you can.
That's exactly exactly. I think a lot of times Tuesdays I'm riding, Wednesdays I'm swimming and running, Thursdays I'm riding and running, Friday, like you get into this regimen. I have to do this day, I have to do this, and all you do is swim this day, bike this day, run day. And exactly what you're saying, when you're on vacation, that's a time to change things up a little bit. Like I went to Hawaii last year and I didn't have anything planned for the week. I didn't have any schedule, but I went in and I said, oh, you know what, today I'm just gonna go swim for 10 minutes. I'm gonna throw on my shoes, go run for a mile, and I'm just gonna bounce back and forth however many times I feel like it. And I think a lot of times we get caught in this regiment of I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, and you forget, like, hey, we do this for fun. What's a fun workout that you can maybe go to the hotel gym and do a little weightlifting, then jump on the treadmill on top of that, then do some weightlifting, then jump. It's like you can have fun with your training too, and in order to change things up and think outside the box as to what you're doing.
Totally agreed. And I believe from a longevity perspective, looking at you want to be in the sport for duration, multiple years. There are 3 times during the year, in my opinion. This is one of them, July, August, in North America, at least. Thanksgiving and Christmas holiday time, where this is your opportunity. And we addressed this a couple of years ago, but always worth bringing up again. This is your opportunity to give back to your significant other and your family, where their lives have been run around your schedule, okay? Your schedule of training, your schedule of racing, everything's generally around the triathlete's lifestyle of when you go to sleep, when you eat. It's so regimented, right? This is a chance for you to then, you be the Sherpa for your wife and your kids rather than the other way around. Give back. Celebrate Thanksgiving. Give thanks to those who've given to you a good number of months of the year. So take the family trip with the kids or your friends or your other family members and turn off the triathlon for that week or 10 days, whatever it may be.
Well, let me tell you something. You're going to have to, I think my wife is going to have to call you just for a reminder, because we're going to Mexico. Just the two of us, 3-year-old and 1-year-old kid. We're going to Mexico for 4 days next week. And you're not going to hear from me. If I pick up my phone to write you, which it's going to be hard not to do, I think I'm going to get a swift kick in the booty. And, if I do it twice, I'll be out hanging out with the horses on the beach.
I'm going to block your number for a week.
You've already done that anyway. But, I think getting back to monotony of training, maybe you took your week off back in June or July or whatever. I think a lot of times too, with the type A personality, a lot of these athletes say, I have Ironman California coming up. I'm just getting ready for Ironman California, and they don't want to do anything else. And I think another way to kind of relight the fire is to get on a start line and like hit a smaller triathlon, hit a 10K, hit a 5K, something that's not going to take too much time to recover from, but it's going to get a start line, let you practice your equipment, let you practice your pacing, let you practice your nutrition, and just get you out in that competitive atmosphere with other athletes. Because I think being surrounded by that energy is a big part of it too. If you're just caught, especially in our sport that's so monotonous and can be so singular focused, you're not out there with a team every single workout. If you can get out and feel the energy of the crowd, feel the energy of that competition, even if it's not the biggest race in the world, it's going to help you relight that fire and keep that fire going in your training.
Agreed. Yes, I'm completely with you. And the coach, us as coaches, should help our athletes plan their season, where we build in that period of time in the summer, whatever you deem necessary with each individual athlete, when that break should be scheduled. And it should be scheduled in. In other words, you wouldn't want to allocate that break 3 weeks before an A race, or even 4 or 5 weeks before an A race, right? You want to back that up a bit. Or if an athlete's taking a vacation the first week of August, as an example, then and they wanted to do a race the first week of September, an A race, well, we'd need to move that race. You need to reschedule that race. You don't necessarily reschedule the vacation, but pick another event that you can go to that's a little further out.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. Like, there's so many events now that you don't have to just try and jam them in one after another. Make sure you have the correct build. Make sure you give yourself enough time to build into it. You give yourself enough time for that ebb and flow. If the ebb is taking a week off at whatever time, you've built that all into the schedule, and it's well thought out. And sometimes as a coach, if things are just on a downward spiral from a mental perspective or a physical perspective, there has to be a mature decision made by the coach. Like, hey, you know what? That race might not be in our best interest, even though it's only a month out. Let's push it to, 2 months out. Let's push it to, 12 weeks out, whatever it is. Live the fight another day, so we go into it healthy and fresh, and not try and jam the round peg into the square hole, or the square peg into the round hole, however you like to say it.
Yeah. And again, in summary, we've sort of somewhat beat this to death here, a lot of scenarios of it, but in summary, plan your year out and build in this period of time as one of your rest periods, your vacation periods, your sort of dialing down periods. Work that in with make it as a family decision together with your coach.
That's right.
And
am I allowed to take 4 days, coach, next week?
You need more than 4 days, actually. or you need 4 days multiple times throughout the year.
Well, I'll be in Nice. I'll be in Nice in a month too. Like,
Right.
driving those athletes across the finish line at the World Championships. So that should be
That's not a break. It's partly,
no, that's
but it's not.
that's full time. Hey, good news. The kids' passports just come, so we're gonna make it there. Don't worry.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I know everybody's worried about that. But hey, I want to get into post that. I want to get Gerry's hot take. People like that. We did a couple shows ago where we had Gerry's hot take. You gave your comments on certain situations. We had the PTO, the US PTO last week, and we had some amazing results. Jan won, Taylor Knibb won on the women's side. Just overall take. What was your take of that race? What kind of Jan winning at 41 years old? Blumenfeld's performance, cramping off the bike, maybe Jason West's run performance. What's your take on the whole situation?
So full disclosure, unfortunately, I missed 60-70% of the women's race. We had some friends that came into town, and I didn't get to see the majority of it. I did get to see, because it was on Friday, the full of the entire men's race. So I missed a bit of perspective on the women's race, but generally, wonderfully well-run event, at least from I'm looking through a coach's lens, not being at the event, right? Not being there looking at this live on the feed. Seemed to be really well run. The course seemed to be terrific, extremely well organized. Is what it appeared to be. I actually enjoyed the commentary, found it to be quite good. I liked the format. So to me, it was.
I think USAT and PTO did a great thing in teaming up with the Nationals with the US Open. I think it was great. Every person that spoke about it, whether a spectator or an athlete on course, said how amazing the whole event was. The course support. All the people out there cheering, the looped course, so they saw the athletes a bunch of times throughout the race. I mean, I think they really thought it through, and it came off as a big time success.
Yeah, and in fact, I believe USA Triathlon even had an independent 1 mile swim, right?
Yeah,
I believe that's 600 participants, and I think United States Masters Swimming needs to pay some attention to this, because these NGBs should be working together more.
Yeah, that they could combine all that together. I mean, think about the peer-to-peer swim that we had here last week with, I think it was 1,400 entrants. So if somehow all these different organizers and events can work together, I mean, that'd be epic.
And that event is not sanctioned. So these, well, the NGB, we don't want to get into the whole NGB discussion, but sidebar for a second, United States Masters Swimming needs to reach out, in my opinion, to United States Triathlon, and they need to form better relations than they have right now. And they certainly need to do it with triathlon clubs and triathlon programs. To me, not much has changed in the last 35 years. I remember going to a number of meetings. I was involved in many committees of the national governing body for United States Masters Swimming. It's not that they were unfavorable to triathletes, but triathletes were sort of like gnats. All those guys that come to workouts and they want to wear their pull buoys all the time. Well, guess what? They are part of your audience. And back then, United States Masters Swimming had 30,000 members. USA Triathlon had 14,000. Well, guess what? Fast forward, United States Masters Swimming has 70,000. That's over 100% increase. But USA Triathlon, when you include their one-day memberships, is close to 500,000 members. So the organization is now dwarfed by United States Triathlon. And so United States Masters Swimming and even USA Swimming these three entities should be working more closely together.
There's room for them to work together. So what's your take on Jan crossing the finish line first at that race?
Well, proves excellence at an older age. It shows that there's opportunity for athletes who think, hey, my career is over in my 20s or 30s, right? It's an outstanding performance. We have a handful of athletes throughout the world in other sports that have done well into their 40s, right? We've got Tom Brady in football, Nolan Ryan in baseball. We can go through some athletes that's done really well, and he's doing the same. Cam Brown was a wonderful athlete from New Zealand. Am I correct?
Yep.
That had an outstanding career into his mid-40s. So Jan's out there, and Jan, who I don't know personally, but seems to be an extremely intelligent athlete that's able to say, hey, I've been in the sport for 20-something years. I now know how to dial my training and work on other specific things, perhaps technical things, perhaps more rest, perhaps things away from the bullseye of bike, swim, bike, and run to augment his performance. And he masterfully did that and executed beautifully in that race.
And I think that was a big takeaway. His execution, he didn't feel like he needed to be at I mean, he was obviously at the front of the bike, but he wasn't in first place. I think he came off the bike fourth place, maybe even fifth place. And he just bided his time. He didn't think he had to stay within 100 meters of the top 3 or 4 guys. He was within sniffing distance, but he raced his race. He stayed within his ability level, knowing that when he got off, he could run against anybody, not only from a run ability level, but from a confidence level. I mean, he's won at the biggest stage how many times. He got off, and he has the confidence that he can outrun anybody out there.
Well, yes. And what have we seen is an increasing level of sport performance since the pandemic. We were just talking about this. Many athletes had time off, and their time off was from racing. So the emotional strain of racing, right? The simple things of, did my bike make it, as an example. We didn't have to think about that for a year and a half, right? Events were on hold. Athletes got an opportunity to be at home and train more. And we talked about this a couple of years ago, Jim, when you said we predicted that there would be excellent athletic performances 4 years out from the pandemic. And we are seeing that in all the sports now. And that's occurring. We have this elevated level in triathlon of outstanding performances there. Now a lot of really terrific athletes that are, almost anyone could win that race on a good day. Anyone that was any of the top 25 guys could have possibly won that race.
That's right. Yeah, it was exciting times, exciting on the women's side, a lot of close racing over there. There's our friend and former guest, Holly Lawrence, was actually made into a meme looking over his shoulder close to the finish line, because she was in the thick of it with about 5 different women coming into the finish chute. And her coming into the last 200 meters, she was looking over her shoulder, seeing how close the girl was behind her. And it's turned into a meme on the internet and some funny stuff. So Holly is not only a talented athlete, but she makes a damn good meme. So.
Well, she was out visiting you just recently. Wasn't her and Sean in town? Spent a few days with us.
Yeah, I didn't see him, but I heard word on the street they were around. But yeah, so that was exciting. What about Ironman? They're getting a new CEO. Do we have any sniffs on who the new CEO is going to be at Ironman?
Interestingly, the only sniff that I have is that I did book Andrew Messick for a show.
Oh, Messick's coming on.
Andrew Messick is coming on.
I didn't even know this. See, I'm the host is the last one to know.
Well, that just happened. I had the opportunity to have lunch with Andrew today before the show.
Oh, wow.
Okay. I had a few things I wanted to ask of him, and one of them being, before you leave, would you be kind enough to come on our show? In light of me suggesting he not go on podcasts after after the flare up, blow up, whatever you want to call it, he had on a podcast with some Australian host several months ago. So he said yes, and would love to. So, well,
that'll be interesting. So he didn't give you any insight in the new head of Ironman. Who's it going to be? Gerry Rodriguez? Were you vying for the job? Is that where you?
No, of course not. Would be completely underqualified. This would be the fastest way to tank Ironman if I became in charge. No, I didn't. There's some things I feel you don't ask because they're internally doing what they need to do. And, but from my perspective, although you didn't ask it, I'm going to make some predictions. I could be dead wrong. This is the beautiful thing about making predictions. You could totally embarrass yourself. I suspect this can be perhaps a non-American this time. It's the company's owned by a European company. And if I were on the search firm looking for a replacement, I'd be looking at places like tennis. There's a sport that's a bit in decline, with probably a bunch of really intelligent executives running around wondering, am I going to have a job because of what pickleball is doing?
Yep.
So I'd be looking at tennis. I'd be looking at golf. I'd be looking at a handful of sports I'd probably look at where people have tremendous event experience and promotion and advertising experience, partnership experience.
I love it. Well, my money's on you, buddy. So keep your hat in the ring. So, okay, cool. Well, that's Gerry's hot take. Appreciate anything else you want to touch on that's in the relevant news, the relevant endurance sport news?
No, that's good.
That's it. All right, let's get to our workout of the episode. Coaching.tower26.com. We're still in our race ready phase. Am I right, Chair? I'm testing you.
Race phase for sure.
A race ready phase of training. I'm going to share the workout as I've been doing lately so you guys can see what we're talking about on screen. So this is our B session from last week. And you guys are seeing, if you're watching on screen, this is our level 1 Gerry, can you see this? I gotta make the
You'd have to make that a little, I can see it, but it should probably go a font or two.
There you go. Font bigger.
That's perfect.
So we did this last weekend. Gerry, you mind if I break it down a little bit?
No, please.
So it kind of adds in all of the aspects of our race day execution, from pace lining to sighting to close quarter swimming to race takeout, all that kind of stuff. But what I really love about this one is I always say, if you want to be able to race fast, you have to train fast. And this one gets you out of your comfort zone, because we set you guys up with a couple longer swims. We're working on pace lining, you're working on drafting, you're working on sighting, but the effort is relaxed. We start the first part of the main set. It's a longer swim. So if you're level 4, which is the not so fast level, Gerry, on my pool deck, I don't say the slowest level, I say the not so fast level, all the way up to level 1. The distance varies based on how strong you are of a swimmer. So the stronger swimmers are going to do a 600. The not so strong swimmers will do a 400, and everything in between level 2 and level 3. So you start with 2 longer swims, and each one you pace line, which means you get right on the feet of the person in front of you. You swim if you have a partner, but the leader only keeps it at 80%. And every 100 for the distance that you're swimming, you guys switch off. So if there's 2 people in the lane, you each lead every other 100. If there's 3 people, you switch off every 3. And you just move through the pace line as you execute. Take a minute break after the first one, and then you do it again, but you switch leaders every 50, and the effort's up slightly. So the first one's at 80%, the second one's at 85%. And the entire way through, we're sighting. You're sighting 2 times when you're in the front, and you're sighting 1 time when you're in the draft. Gerry, why do we change it based on where you are in the pace line? Why do we change the sighting frequency?
So that's 2 times per 25, right? So 8
per
times
25, yeah.
Yeah. The reason that I've set it up that way is we really want the athlete in the draftee, in the drafting position. So the leader is the draftor, the person sitting, getting the benefit on the feet in 2nd, 3rd, or 4th position, draftee. We want them to really use that opportunity to recover the best they can. And because we're doing this in a pool, now we don't recommend this all the time, obviously in open water, but in a pool, you know you're swimming straight because you got the black line at the bottom of the pool. So we don't need to sight as frequently. So we'll just back that down to 1 sighting per 25, and utilize the opportunity of the draft to really, really try to recover and make yourself get your heart rate as managed as possible.
So you do those 2 swims, and if you don't have a partner, don't worry, you can still do the workout. It's just you'll alternate effort. So I think it's on the first one, you'll go 80% for 100, and then 75% for 100, and you'll bounce back and forth on your own. And the second one, you'll do the same thing on 50s, but you'll be 85% and 75% bouncing back and forth by 50. So you don't necessarily need partners, but if you can get a partner and feel the effect of that draft, you're going to be that much more of a believer to dial in on race day. So we want you to try and find a partner that you can swim with and feel the benefit of that draft. But then the fun part of this workout comes in the second part. Gerry, if you would have been on deck, you would have seen some athletes working their tails off in the second part of this workout, because you have anywhere from 7 to 10 100s based on your level. And each one you dive in at the start, and you're getting right on the feet of the athlete in front of you. So it's one after another after another. So you're pace lining again. You're feeling the effects of that draft. But the leader is going at a hard effort, race takeout effort. And Gerry, on scale of 1 to 10, what's a race takeout effort?
9.
9. So something that's hard, maintainable. It's not going to cause you to keel over at the end of it, but it's a darn hard effort. And what I told these guys is you're trying to get rid of the people on your feet, right? So the leader has to go hard. The people on the feet have to dive right in on those feet and stay there. And if they let, 3-4 feet, you let 3-4 feet from the swimmer in front of you, you're going to lose that draft. Is that right, Gerry?
You lose a significant portion of it, yes.
And once they start to pull away, it's really tough to get back on those feet. So stay on the feet as long as you can. Make sure you're practicing the sighting, 2 by 25 for the sighting. Once you're finished with the 100, you deck up and you run 10 to 15 meters, whether it's around a set of bleachers, run to a wall, touch the wall, run back. So you're really practicing getting out under the stress of the effort and running like you'll be doing in the transition. Take about a minute rest after each, because these are very taxing efforts. After a minute, the second person becomes the leader, and the person who led the first one goes to the back of the pace line, whether it's behind the leader or behind the 4th person, whoever it is, you rotate through. But each one, that leader is at race takeout effort, and the followers are trying to get right on those feet and stay there, just like they're going to be doing on race day. So you're doing 7 to 10 of those. And like I said, by the time you're done with that 7th or 10th one, however many you have in your set, you should be pretty well fatigued, because it is really bringing the effort. And let me tell you, Gerry, on deck last Saturday, we had some athletes bent over, huffing and puffing by the end of that last one.
But this is an intensive set, no doubt about it. And this is a type of set that once you get done, you can't just end the workout here. You have to go do some form of recovery.
Right. So you pull at the end just to get that heart rate down, just to get back into a little bit more of a technical side of swimming. Think about how you're swimming. So as you see at the end, we have anywhere from a 500 to 1,000 pull just to get back into that technique, bring the heart rate down slowly, and not just end with that high end 7th or 10th 100. So really fun workout, brings out that competitive side. And our athletes were still talking about that one today on deck, and that's a week later. So fun times. So Jer, I want to implement a segment here. Jim and Gerry argue over a swim drill. How's that sound? So we talked about this on our 2 p.m. call, and I spoke about this buoy that I accidentally used. It's like Charles Goodyear spilling a concoction on the stove and making rubber. So I use this.
Look like? Describe that.
So very thin. It looks like a kickboard, right? So it's like a kickboard. It's very, very thin. So my wife took my swim bag to work last week, and I went to the pool with whatever I could find in my garage. And I found this.
Her way of saying, take a day off.
Take a day off. Don't swim, right? Well, we'll talk about that later. But so I found whatever, I cobbled together whatever I could. I had jammers, I had a pair of foggy goggles, and I had this buoy, right? So I went and I did a workout, and I used this buoy, and the thing kept slipping out of my legs. And it's about the width of a kickboard. If you're not watching us on YouTube or on Facebook right now, it was so hard to keep this in between my inner thighs. Right. And I had the athletes today in the pool do 50s, and every other 50, they used the kickboard to pull, and then they took it out. And the reasoning, what I found was it took and you being a lifelong swimmer, and me being an adult onset swimmer, I think a big problem is I just don't know the engagement it takes from the bottom of the rib cage down to the top of the knees that we should be swimming with that posture. And I think by using a super thin kickboard or buoy like this, it just promotes that that core engagement that maybe an adult onset swimmer doesn't know they need to be having. What's your thoughts?
So I don't know, because interestingly, I have not used that buoy, but I did promise you when we did have that 2 p.m. call with our athletes that I would try it. So I want to borrow that from you and give it a try. But I can absolutely see and theoretically agree with with your comments.
And it forced me to really turn on my glutes. It forced me to turn on those adductors to a degree. It forced me to keep that tautness that we're always talking about. And maybe I think we know how the posture is on the upper body. But I think many athletes, especially from feedback I got on deck today, they said, man, I never realized that I needed to have that type of engagement in the lower, in the core and into the lower half of the body. So then when they took that out and they did the 50s without it, and they kept that same engagement, I saw a lot less splay in the legs as they turned to breathe, and a lot more mindfulness as to how they should be carrying the body in those 50s.
The interesting thing, without having used it yet, the things that come to my mind once I saw the shape of that buoy would be those who have any sort of wiggling from waist down, it would probably become more pronounced. They would feel it more, I would think. And therefore you get a little signaling, right, that you can correct that or you need to work on it. So that's one benefit. I think that's would be the case, but I might be talking a little ahead of using it.
Well, let's use it and see. Like I said, I got some good feedback today, and we're just gonna have to make everybody do those nutcrackers at the gym where they're squeezing their legs together. They have all those weird dudes on the other side looking at everybody squeeze. Yeah.
I'm generally a big proponent of equipment. I think equipment, there's a motivational aspect of equipment. There's value for it. It helps work on different aspects of technical aspects of the stroke. And but I like to try it, all the pieces of equipment rather than just recommending it. And I'm also not dogmatic about many pieces of equipment, but there are some, and we did a review not too long ago. And when I think something's not going to work, I'm going to say it's not going to work. So this thing, I'd like to try it and then come up with an opinion after the fact.
All right. Well, consider it in the mail, or I'll just give it to you. I don't know, probably see you this week sometime.
Yeah, this weekend.
All right. So beautiful. I love that. It's a new segment. I like it. We got a couple new segments. Gerry's hot take and Jim and Gerry argue over swim drills. All right, let's get to our question.
On that one, it seemed
no, there wasn't. No, there wasn't. I'm going to come up with something that has a little more.
We could argue, because you brought it up, you and Coach Jack, we could argue on sculling.
That's next time. Come on, we only have so much time.
On the next time.
I'm putting on sculling next time. I'm arguing with you on that one. I hate doing sculling. I'm going to be on your side on this one. It takes too long. right, let's get to the questions of the episode. We got a pretty long comment here. Remember, Jim at tower26.com if you have a question or a comment. Let's cut out the middleman, just come directly to me. So we have our athlete, Ben Helvey, who wrote us a pretty long comment, but he did the peer-to-peer swim last week. He was the first place in the male wetsuit division, age 40 to 49. He was 4th overall in the wetsuit division. He was 93rd overall wetsuit, non-wetsuit, which I don't know if that makes a difference, but let's just say, let me start reading this, Jerry. If you want to stop me throughout, let me know. But Ben writes, this was an important race for me, and this was my second race ever. I did the 2006 Hermosa Tri with a friend, but I never trained seriously. I worked 12 hours a day at a desk, and I have a family that never took time to take care. I have a family, and I never took time to take care of myself. I tore my Achilles in June of 2022 while playing soccer, and I had two small boys, and I ended up with chest pain, stress-related in November 2022. He had a lot of issues, to say the least. I had an epiphany that something had to change. I met a friend a few years ago, and he always talked about how those small incremental actions accumulate. I had reached my breaking point and decided to start small. In January 2023, I went to the Torrance Plunge on Saturday, paid $4 for a lane. It was freezing, it was pouring rain. Me and this Japanese grandma, we were the only two swimmers there. I swam 500 yards and I was winded and I couldn't recover for a week. My first week, that was my first workout. But more than 700 swims. I kept at the Torrance Plunge too. I kept going to the Torrance Plunge 2 to 3 times a week, making those small incremental gains my friend had told me about. Swimming is the only activity I could do because of my Achilles rehab, and it was still quite painful. As summer approached, I wanted to do the Hermosa Tri. It was the one race I ever did 17 years ago, and I wanted to take back my fitness. I reached out to Tower 26 on April 30th for some help, and I met Coach Chris O'Driscoll, who understood my injury and started building a plan for me. What I didn't expect was the amazing community of athletes to train with at Tower 26 every week, and I've met some great friends. And I never expected to be how supportive everybody was. Race ready isn't just a tagline. It's an ethos that prepares you and gives you confidence. Jim, I'll get to the point. The peer-to-peer was a case study in what makes Tower 26 coaching program terrific. And I didn't expect this part of it, but I wanted to brag about Ben because of his commitment. I was prepared with several ocean swim clinics sponsored by Tower 26 in the South Bay, so I was comfortable in the open water. I'd listened to Jim and Jerry's Be Race Ready podcast on sighting. I had expert critique on my swimming, and I did a swim video analysis from Coach Jack. 30 minutes before the peer-to-peer, Coach Jim led the warm-up. We got in the water. We got familiar with the conditions. We spoke about how to execute and be mentally prepared for the race. And by the time I got the start line, my preparedness was complete. I had the plan in my head. Chris told me after burners to the pier, then make the turn, then you're on cruise control. The starting gun hit. I hit the surf. I stuck to the plan. I thought about Coach Emily saying, don't worry, the first 10 minutes stink. Ignore the soreness. Your body's acclimating. I heard Coach Gerry saying alignment, tautness, focus on sighting. I heard Coach Chris say, don't let your mind wander, count your strokes, keep your body tight, no shaky. I heard Coach Jim saying, take no prisoners. And so my mental space was 1, 2, 3, 4 strokes, take no prisoners, focus on my body position, look up in sight. Tower 26 and the coaching and the community made all the difference for me on Sunday. So he had a successful experience. I didn't do that to pat us on the back and read that whole thing just so you could hear.
Yeah,
I know it was a long one, but I wanted to say, I mean,
was there a question in there or just?
Well, I wanted to key off his points. It's not necessarily a question, but it's a comment of how mentally he didn't just go in and swim 3.5K and say, oh, I just got to swim in. I mean, he was so dialed in and prepared to go out there and execute. He knew what his mantras were going to be. He had done the right build in. And Ben isn't a lifelong swimmer. To have that type of results, he went out there exactly like Jan did at the PTO Open. He executed his race. He stuck to his plan, and obviously the success happened.
So I heard two things in there in that line. This is the first time hearing or seeing this. One, he started in April and he went all the way through and he followed a process. Two, he executed on event day with extreme presence. He had great awareness throughout. He had using the words, whatever he said, the mantras of you and Coach Emily and our other coaches and so on, carrying him through. So process driven and full presence. Aren't those two giant P's in the success pod?
Huge.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that's what is it? Chapter 1 of Coach Jerry's book. That's what we talk about, right? Yeah. So Ben, congratulations, really great results, and no question there. But I think we got that comment for the podcast. I want to read it, give a little bit of props, and talk about some key points in it. So, all right, Jerry, we're going to talk about next episode.
I'm uncertain, but we have the good news is we got some big names coming on, which is, I'm excited. Andrew Messick will come on. I'm but there are many folks out there, him and I talked about this today at lunch. There are many folks out there who I read on social media that are very negative of Andrew. And I'm a fan. I'm a supporter. Fan wouldn't be the correct word, but I'm a supporter of it. I think he's an excellent CEO. But I'm more of a business mind. So look at the business aspect, and there's some I'm excited to have him on when the time is right for him. We will have Lionel Sanders on. He's committed to doing it. So,
well, his last video, he talked about Coach Gerry a good amount. So
I heard about
times,
that.
pick his brain and get into where he's at and what he's doing with the rest of his schedule. So fun times, a lot of good stuff coming up. And, I like this intimacy between me and you, Gerry. So we're going to have to keep this going. But it's always nice to have other people in studio as well. So, all right, guys. So keep those questions, comments coming in, Jim at tower26.com. And if anything else, you need to go to tower26.com. This is Jim Lubinsky for Gerry Rodriguez, the Tower 26 Be Race Ready podcast. Take it easy, everybody.